Hey everyone, this is Brian Dodd bringing you this week's leadership moment. And it is great to talk with you again, great to invest in you and your leadership. And so I want to begin by just basically the subject of today is going to be this. How do you show respect to a leader? Okay, so you're a young leader coming up, you want to, talk to older leaders, have them invest in you, maybe learn from some peers. How do you show them respect? Okay, this is not, I have leaders in my organization. How do I respect them? This is mainly for young leaders coming up. How do you respect the people who invest in you? So I want to talk with you about that. Last week, I was talking with a pastor, and we were just talking about some things going on in his life. And at the end of the conversation, I said, based upon what I've heard you say, I've been taking copious notes, and I've got 5 suggestions for you. And he kind of laughed and said, well, I didn't know you were taking notes. It was a phone conversation. He goes, I didn't know you were taking notes, or I might not have said some of the things that I said. And here's the interesting thing. I'm always taking notes, especially when I talk to people who are more talented than me in an area. They've lived longer than me. They've got things in their life that they just do better than I do. And I'm always looking to learn from them. And I'm always taking notes. So let me give you a couple of backgrounds as to why that's happening, and then some action steps you can do. The year was give or take around year 2000. I was working for a company. I was very young at the time. I was in my early 20s, and the CEO of the company wanted to meet with me. Now, this was not a Brian's in trouble or anything like that, but the CEO of the company, he wanted to spend some time with me, talk with me, invest in me. And the director of my department at the time came up to me and she goes, Brian, how much do you think he makes annually? And I said, well, 100,000, 200,000, I was young. She goes, why don't you add a multiplier of 10 to that? And then she said this, she goes, if he makes $2 million a year and you take that number and divide it by 2,080, and 2,080 is 52 weeks a year, 40 weeks a year. Now, obviously, people at that level work much more than that, but that's just kind of a baseline. If you take that number, Brian, and divide it by half, his hourly rate divided by half, because he's giving you 30 minutes, you've got to add that much value to him. So $2 million divided by 2,080 hours is $961 and change an hour. So ultimately, I needed to provide him a minimum of $480 to $500 of value in the half hour that he was going to give me. And I think if you're a young leader and an older leader is investing in you, you kind of have to do that type of math. Like, how much is their time worth? You want them to steward their time and their resources well, and you want that stewardship in your life to get a great return and be worth their time and energy. So going through that little mathematical exercise has really served me well, that anytime a supervisor, a CEO, a vice president, a pastor, anyone like that spends time with me, I want to make sure that they get that much or more in terms of return on investment. So that's the first thing. Second thing, under the heading of always be taking notes. When I went to work for Enjoy Stewardship back in 2002, I had a president of our company, a gentleman named Dave Sutherland. I would get to work about 7 in the morning. Dave would be there about 6, but it'd just be me and him in the office. And he'd come in early. He'd get all of his work done. And then he'd start walking around and just kind of getting coffee and things like that. And he would pop into my office. And then he would just sit down and start investing in me. Now, Dave had an expectation that you were always taking notes if he talked. And so if you were not taking notes, he would just think that you did not think what he was saying was important. But luckily, I was always taking notes. And I want to show you this. Here are my notes from all the mornings that Dave Sutherland came into my office. And so every time he came in, I was always taking notes, always documenting it, always printing it out. And I still have that file to this day. And that is as valuable a file as anything in my office. And so, all the leadership stuff that I know today and some of my thought processes and things like that were birthed in them early morning sessions that are now located in this file. So young leaders, here's what I would recommend. You just get a basic moleskin notebook. You can get it at Hallmark. You can get it, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Hobby Lobby, any of those stores, but get you a notebook like this. And any time that you're spending time with a leader who's farther than you down the road in any area of your life, you're always asking good questions and you're always taking notes. By the way, when a leader sees that what you're saying is valuable enough that you will write it down, he will joyfully or she will joyfully continue to invest in you in the days, months, and years ahead. By the way, let me give you a tip. Do not sit there and say, I'm typing it in my computer or I'm logging it on my phone. Most leaders who are seasoned leaders, you may or may not be doing that, or you may just be looking at Amazon or checking your email or something like that while they're talking. But if you actually take time to write it down and then do the suggestions and then follow up with the leader, share what you've learned, then what you're doing, as John Maxwell would say, you then develop an ongoing, growing relationship. And the leader will gladly invest in you. It will be a joy and privilege in their life, because leaders at a certain point do worry about legacy and want to leave a great legacy and want to invest in the next generation and want to see that multiplied. And I want to position you as a young leader to learn from as many seasoned leaders, learn from what they've done well, learn from their mistakes. I want you to learn as much as you can, because my generation will gladly pass it on to you. So thank you for listening. I hope this has helped you. If you're a leader like me who's been around for a while, got the gray hair to show for it, feel free to show this video to all your younger leaders. And but if you're a younger leader, start taking notes, start writing it down, start keeping a file. It'll be one of the best decisions you ever made. Hey, thanks again. It's been an honor to invest in your leadership. And I hope you just have a great week. God bless.